Welcome back. We're on Lesson 2, Properties of Operations. Number 1, consider the following properties of addition. Number 1, commutative property. Number 2, associative. 3, additive identity. 4, additive inverse. For each equation below, indicate the property that justifies the equation. Okay, so the answers are, for the first one here, you should have had additive identity property. For the next one down, 5 plus negative 5 equals 0. That's additive inverse property. And then for the last one, it was commutative. Technically, it's the commutative property of addition because it's working it out with addition. All right, so let's talk about how I got those answers. You might want to make some flashcards. Buy yourself a flashcard folder if you don't have one. They also sell it with rings on it, which is kind of fun. I've got some flashcards that I started for the SAT test in here already. So I'm going to make another one here for Algebra 2 because they give you little folder dividers so you can spread them out. So that would be a good idea. All right, so the quick answer here on what you should have on your flashcards to memorize. You don't need to memorize the definition of it. What you need to memorize is just what it looks like. So when you see this a plus b plus c equal to a plus c plus b, notice the order changed. The things moved around. They commuted. They're not in the same place that they were. 7, 8, 9 on the right switches to 9 plus 8 plus 7. Same thing with the multiplication. 7 times 8 times 9 is now 9 times 8 times 7. Or you could say the numbers commuted. Commute means, when you commute to work, you're driving to work, your mom and dad commute to work. So commutative property of addition or multiplication. So again, you should be able to look at the one side of your card, flip it over, and be able to say commutative property of addition, multiplication. For the next card, it's with parentheses. Now, just because it has parentheses doesn't mean it's the associative property, so be careful on that. Maybe they'll have a tricky one for us on the lesson today, so you can see what I mean. But the associative property moves what's inside the parentheses. So a plus b plus c is still equal to a plus b plus c, but the parentheses around the a and the b moved to the b and the c. Down here it moved from the 6 and 7 to the 5 and 6, and with the multiplication, 6 and 7 were inside it, and now 7 and 8 are inside it. But again, the order of everything, the terms on the left and the right are the same. 6, 7, 8 is now still 6, 7, 8. So you should be able to look at that, flip it over, and say associative property of addition or possibly multiplication. It's associative of addition if there's plus signs. It's associative of multiplication if things are multiplied together. The next one they had on there was the additive inverse property. So you should be able to look at this side, and if you're combining two things and you get the number 0 back, if you're adding them together and you get 0, that meant you added the inverse of the number. 7 plus the inverse of 7 gives you 0. A plus the inverse of A gives you 0. The next one, additive identity. 7 plus 0 is 7, or x plus 0 is still x, and so on. So you're adding the number 0 and getting back the number you started with. That's the identity property of it, addition. So you can look up longer answers to it. So, and again, you don't need to memorize the definition. You need to memorize what it looks like, but I had on the other cards. But some of you might want to overachieve and have the whole definition of them. So for additive identity, additive identity is a number which, when added to any number, gives the sum as a number itself. 8 plus 0 equals 8. And then the next card here, additive inverse. Additive inverse of a number is what you add to a number to create the sum of 0. So 8 plus negative 8 equals 0. And then the commutative property states that the numbers on which we operate can be moved from their position without making any difference to the answer. So 8 plus 7 plus 6 is equal to 7 plus 8 plus 6. So the order of them changed. Are they commuted, like you commute or drive around to work? And last one, associative property. The associative property is when three or more numbers are added or multiplied, the sum or product is the same regardless of the grouping. So they associate. So like you have associates at school, your friends are your associates who you hang out with. They like to use that, like you'll see it in a criminal show. They'll ask who their known associates are or who they associate with. So here you think about it, 8 plus 7 is associating or hanging out in the parentheses. Over here now, 7 and 6 are associating or hanging out inside the parentheses. So that could be a way that you could memorize it. All right, so that was a very long answer in number 1 for you. I overachieved there. Number 2, 5 divided by a minus 2 over a. Simplify your answer as much as possible. Okay, on this one, the answer should have been 3 over a. There's a common denominator there already, so all you have to do is subtract the top. 5 minus 2 is 3, so 3 over a. Number 3, simplify. 4x minus 6x. The answer is negative 2x. You have 4 minus 6, or you can think of that as positive 4 plus a negative 6. They're different signs. When you subtract, you take the sign of the bigger number. Ignoring signs, the number 6 is bigger than the number 4. There's more negative energy there than positive energy, so the overall answer is going to be negative. So negative 2x. I wouldn't advise you to use a calculator on this. You really need to be able to know that 4 minus 6 is negative 2, but if you want to check it, you could use your calculator to check it. Okay, on the next one, 1/2 b minus 3/7 b. Okay, the answer on this one is 1 over 14b. Okay, so again, you need a common denominator. This is not a common denominator. That's a 2, that's a 7. You can put the b on the top. There's nothing under the b, so technically it's sitting on the top. So that's really 1b over 2 minus 3b over 7. So the common denominator here is going to be 14. 2 times 7, 14. Or what you can do is multiply across. 7 times 1b is 7b, and then 7 times 2 is 14. 2 times 3 is 6b, and then 2 times 7, 14. And then 7 minus 6 is 1b. So 1b over 14, or you could say 1/14 b, pulling it apart. Either answer is nice. Again, it'd be really nice if you could just work that out on your own. But if you want to use your calculator, there's not a fraction key on the fancy calculator. What you got to do is just divide. So it's 1 divided by 2 minus 3 divided by 7. Hit enter. And then you hit math, enter, enter. And it changes it back to a fraction for you of 1/14. Again, what you do, there's not a fraction key on it, but fraction is division. So 1 divided by 2 minus 3 divided by 7. Hit enter. And then you hit math, enter, and enter again, and it tells you the answer is 1/14. All right, and then the next one, number 5. It says use the distributive property to remove the parentheses. Okay, so the answer on number 5 is 7y minus 28. So to do that, what distribute means is that you multiply across. So I'm going to multiply this number 7 in front of the parentheses. It's bumped up against the parentheses. So that means multiply. So 7 times y, and then you're going to keep going. 7 times the minus 4, multiply by both the terms that are inside the parentheses. There's 2 terms inside the parentheses, y and negative 4. 7 times y is 7y, and then 7 times minus 4 is minus 28, because it's positive 7 times a minus 4, or you could say plus negative 4 if you wanted. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28 or minus 28. Minus and negative are kind of the same thing. Number 6, use the distributive property to remove the parentheses. Okay, so on number 6, you want for the answer 10v plus 20y minus 30. So again, we're distributing this negative 5 that's bumped against the parentheses. You're going to multiply it across by everything that's there. Negative 5 times negative 2, negative times a negative is positive 10. And then negative times a negative makes that plus 20y. And then negative times positive makes negative 30. So again, 2 negatives are positive and 1 negative makes it negative. People like to say negative and then times a negative. You put the 2 negatives together and it makes a plus sign. Number 7, use the distributive property to remove the parentheses. Simplify your answer as much as possible. 3/4 times the quantity 8x plus 16. The answer on 7 is 6x plus 12. So working that out, you can make this a fraction also, since 3/4 was a fraction. So you're multiplying 3/4 times 8 over 1. And remember, you're allowed to, when you multiply fractions together, cancel diagonally. So I'm going to cancel 4 into both of those. 4 into 4 once, 4 into 8 twice. Then multiplying across, 3 times 2 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. And then we got 3/4 times 16. Again, multiplying across, I can cancel. 4 goes into 16 4 times, and 4 into 4 once. 3 times 4 is 12, and 1 times 1 is 1. So we got 6x plus 12. And you can't combine those because the 12 doesn't have the letter x on it, so they don't add together. Likewise up here, you can't combine those. They're not like terms. The 28 doesn't have a y on it. Number 8, consider the following properties of real numbers. So on the left, we have a bunch of choices for addition, commutative, associative, identity, inverse, distribution. On the right, same ones, but with the word multiplication, commutative, associative, identity, inverse, multiplication property of 0. For each equation below, indicate the property that justifies the equation. Okay, so the first one here has all multiplication, so it's going to have to come from this column over here. And notice it goes 9, 4b, 9, 4b, so the order didn't change, but what moved were the parentheses. So that makes it associative. Associative is parentheses, and because it's with multiplication, it has to be number 7. The next one also has a multiplication, so it's going to be one of the ones down here. So you multiplied by 0 and you got 0 back. That's the multiplication property of 0, number 10. You might want to make a flashcard for that one. The next one, m plus 5 is equal to 5 plus m. So there's an addition sign. So it's going to be from the first column here about addition. Notice the order from the left side to the right side of the equal sign changed. M plus 5 is now 5 plus m. So that's the commutative property of addition. The last one is multiplication again. You could put a 1 underneath there. We get an identity back. The identity for multiplication is the number 1. So it's the multiplicative inverse property, which is number 9. When you multiply two things together and you get the identity back, we did the inverse of it. Okay, number 9. Consider the following expression. 5 times quantity 6 plus 1 times the quantity 2b plus 7. Select all of the true statements below. First choice, 6 and 1 are like terms. Second choice, in the quantity 2b plus 7, 2b is a constant. Third one, in 2b, 2 is a coefficient. Next one, 5 is a factor. The quantity 2b plus 7 is written as a sum of 3 terms. And the last, none of these are true. Okay, you wanted for the answer the first one, the second, and the the first, the third, and the fourth one. It's not this one because that is not a constant. A constant is just a number, like the number 6 or the number 7, just a plain number without a letter on it. Because it has a letter on it, it's not a constant. The one down here is written as a sum of 3 terms. This has got 2 terms in it. The term 2b and the second term is 7. So it's the sum of 2 terms. So no. 5 is a factor. That means that 5 is multiplied. Factors are things that are multiplied together. We got 3 items multiplied together. So 5 is a factor. 2 is the coefficient of b. It's the number, the coefficient is the number that's in front of a letter. So like, for example, going to suppose land, nothing to do with the problem. If you had 3x, the number in front of x is 3, so 3 is the coefficient. And last of all, 6 and 1 are like terms because they're just numbers. Likewise, again, going to suppose land, like 7x and 9x, those are like terms because they both have the same letter to the same power. They're both to the power of 1. Number 10, for each expression, select all equivalent expressions from the list. For number 10, you wanted the first 2 were the answers. Going backwards here, if you distribute the 8 across it, 8 times x was 8x, and 8 times 3 is 24, so that gives you 8x plus 24. And here, same thing, 8x plus 24. This is wrong because you can't add together the 8 and the 24 because they're not like terms. There's no x on the 24, so you can't add them together and say there's 32 x's. There's 8 x's and the number 24. Down here, if you distribute it, you get 24x, and then 8 times 1 is 8. So that's not the same. On the second one, on letter B, it was the last one. Okay, there's no multiplication here. We're just combining like terms. Let's start with the y's. We have a plus 12y and a minus 1y. There's nothing on the y, so there's a 1 there. 12y and negative 1y, different signs subtract, so that gives you 11y. 12 minus 1 is 11. And then for the numbers, we have a positive 10 and a minus 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. Okay, number 11. They want us to simplify 4 times the quantity u minus 3 minus 7u. On number 11, you want to have the answer negative 3u minus 12. Distribute the 4 across it, so that gives you 4u minus 12. 4 times u is 4u. 4 times minus 3 is minus 12. And then you still got the minus 7u there. So combining like terms then, we have the u's. We have 4u and minus 7u. Different signs subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number. Just looking at the numbers, ignoring the sign. 7's bigger than 4. And so there's more negative than there's positive. So the negative wins, and it's negative 3u minus 12. Number 12, the expression 4 times the quantity 2 plus u plus 7u is simplified in several steps below. For each step, choose the reason that best justifies it. Okay, so they started with this, and they went from here to here. What happened? The 4 is gone, and they moved it across the whole thing, and they distributed it. So to get from here to here, they distributed. Now, what happened from here to here? The 8's still there, but that changed to 11. They combined them. So that's combining like terms. Last of all, it's still the same thing. They moved it around. They just switched where the 2 of them were at. And you're allowed to move things around because there was a plus sign. And so that's the commutative property of addition. Okay, last one. Well, not the last one. We're almost there, though. Number 13, simplify 4w minus 5 times the quantity negative 6z plus 3w minus 5z. Okay, on number 13, you wanted to have negative 11w plus 25z. Okay, so distribute the negative 5 across there. The first step you're supposed to do when you have a lot of things to do, you're supposed to get rid of the parentheses first or do your multiplication first by PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So when it says to do parentheses first, so parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, not one before the other. And then last of all, add and subtract. Again, not one before the other. On both of those, you do them left to right like you read a book. All right, so we got to do parentheses first. So parentheses means get rid of them, do what's there. And what's there is to distribute the negative 5. So I'm going to bring down the 4w. The negative times a negative makes plus 30z. And the negative times a positive is negative. 5 times 3 is 15w. And then minus 5z. All right, so then combining left to right, the w's, they're different signs. Subtract, use the sign of the bigger number. 15 is bigger than 4. So that's negative 11. And then the z's, combine the z's, they're like terms. They're different signs. So subtract them, and that gives you the 25z. 30 is bigger, so it stays positive. Okay, the last one. Simplify the following expression. 13x squared minus 13x plus 5 minus 6x minus 11x squared. Okay, 14, the answer is 8x squared minus 19x plus 5. So there's no parentheses here, so all we have to do is addition and subtraction on them. So combine the like terms. X squareds are like terms because they're the same letter, the same power. So 3 and negative 11, different signs subtract. 11 minus 3 is 8. So that makes positive 8. Well, no, it makes negative 8. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be negative 8x squared. Son of a gun. So negative 8x squared. And then doing the x's, negative 13 and negative 6, same signs, add them together. We got all that negative energy, negative 13 and negative 6, so all kinds of negative. Add them up. We got negative 19x. And then last of all, the 5 is left. All right, so again, I would suggest that you use some sort of supplement, a textbook with the answers to the odds in the back so you can do more practice on this. Or there's some great online programs that I can suggest to you. So contact me at a2math.com if you need some help. All right, have a great day.